So that's when the question of age was injected into tonight's debate. And Steve Kornacki has been gathering on said facts.
In this campaign, this Democratic campaign really is an interesting test of when it comes to age, some things we haven't really tested before. The three leading Democratic candidates, you saw Bernie Sanders there, Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren, the top three in polling, all would be over 70 years old on Inauguration Day if they were sworn in as president. And two of them, if they served out their first term as president, Sanders and Biden, would be over 80 years old. This country's never had a president over 80 years old. So it's a question of how much is this on the mind of Democratic voters? What do they actually think of age as an issue? So some new polling data we can show you. It's not quite a national poll. This is from all the early states. It's about 18 different states. It's a pretty broad mix. So this is a pretty good poll here to look at on this question. So start with Elizabeth Warren. She would be 71 years old on Inauguration Day if she's sworn in. Democratic voters were asked, is that too old? How many said so? 4% said that Elizabeth Warren at 71 would be too old. Okay, how about the next oldest Democratic candidate? That's Joe Biden, considerably older, 7 years older. He'd be 78 on Inauguration Day. Remember, the oldest president in history so far, Ronald Reagan, was a couple of weeks shy of 78 when he left office. Biden would come in at 78. How many Democrats say that is too old? Look at that number jumps to 28%, more than 1 out of 4. And then, of course, Bernie Sanders is older still, 79 years old on Inauguration Day, and coming off this heart attack. This poll was conducted after that. How many say that Bernie Sanders is too old? That number climbs all the way to 43%. Again, this is Democrats in the early states. Now, here's the interesting thing. If you look at Biden and you look at Sanders, where those numbers are high among Democrats, and take it a step further and you ask Democrats, what specifically is it about their age that gives you pause about them? This is sort of somewhat interesting. When it comes to Biden, the Democrats who say they do think he's too old, and they're asked, why is he too old? About 36% say because his age would make it too difficult for him to do the job. 54% say his age just makes him out of touch. 10% say, hey, he's just been in politics too long. How about for Bernie Sanders? Very different, actually. Very different reaction. Look at this. Too difficult to do the job. 82% who are worried about Bernie Sanders' age say that is their specific concern about his age. Only 10%, look, compared to 54, say they think he's out of touch. 8% say he's been in too long. So just a very interesting situation. Again, we don't have many races. I can't think of a single race for president in either party where the three frontrunners were all over 70 years old. And you can see there's some very different attitudes among Democrats when it comes to those candidates and their ages.
Fascinating stuff, as always, Steve. Thank you for that. And Nicole, we've talked about this. It's a fine line between straight up ageism and the questions people are allowed to ask because we are the consumers here.
Yeah, look, I worked for a candidate who was a cancer survivor, John McCain. Yeah. He was a cancer survivor, skin cancer survivor. So there were a lot of questions about his age and his health. And it was a different time. We disclosed everything. Sanjay Gupta came down to Arizona. We went through just a totally different time. Donald Trump basically turned a White House doctor into a shill to lie about his weight. I mean, we're in such a different place. And I think these questions, I think polling on this will be an interesting thing to watch, because I think when you see American allies getting slaughtered in the Middle East, the wisdom card becomes a more important one to be able to play. And no one gets to play it the way Joe Biden gets to play it. And I think his answer tonight, I was just looking at the transcript, Vice President Biden, if you're elected, you'll turn 80 during your first term. Last month, Jimmy Carter said he could not have undertaken the duties of presidency at 80 years old. Why are you sure you can? And Biden says, because I watched it. I know what the job is. I've been engaged. Look, one of the reasons I'm running is because of my age and my experience. With it comes wisdom. And if there's one thing that whomever the Democrats settle on can take to the entire electorate, it's wisdom.
I just put a 6 in front of my age. I'm big on wisdom suddenly. But Eugene, this is in the eye of the beholder.
No, it is. And that's why those numbers are really, really fascinating, because it's about people's lived experience of age. That's what I think people are basing this estimation on. And, 70 today isn't what 70 was, 70 years ago.
Thank God.
Thank God, right. People are a lot healthier, a lot longer in their life. People exercise, people eat right, people are able to go on much longer. By the same token, people survive heart attacks and go on to live long lives. And everybody knows somebody who's had a heart attack. And so people may be basing their view of Bernie Sanders' ability to do the job on their experience of a friend or relative who had a recent heart attack. And they may see, Uncle Fred wouldn't be up to this, in that state, having had a recent heart attack. That may be the way people are thinking. But I do think it's from personal experience. It's something that touches us all. We all get older.
It was an issue on stage before CNN asked it as a question. It's something I think everyone was thinking about.
Well, and I think maybe Bernie's heart attack sort of, brought it out and let it become.
It made it an issue.
But I think the truth is that the top three candidates are the three oldest candidates.
Yeah.
And the person that
the top four candidates, if you count the president.
Exactly. They'd be running against the president in the 70s.
I mean, you've got the president who is older than Elizabeth, but slightly younger than Biden and Bernie. So, the top four people that are competing for this, the most difficult, most absolutely exhausting job on the planet are all in their 70s.
And at the same time, you have a slate of very young candidates. I mean, you have Gabbard, you have Buttigieg, you have Booker, you have Castro, all of whom could claim the mantle of a younger next generation of leadership. And what I find so interesting whenever Buttigieg, I mean, he invoked it 2, maybe 3 times tonight, where he said, growing up, I watched what they did in Washington and it didn't work, which is clearly meant to be a generational argument. But you almost expect the pivot there to be, I watched what you did, it didn't work, so let's blow it up. And that's not it. It's, I watched what you did, it didn't work, and so we're going to thread the needle and try to actually focus on results and getting things done rather than a pure ideological mold. And I wonder if that actually appeals to young people.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.